All right, let's get started, shall we? I want to talk about the election and some big election news rounding up on this Thursday morning and where things sit right now with the latest poll numbers. But first, I want to start with something President Trump did yesterday, which smacked me sideways, and I couldn't believe that I was actually watching this happen. President Trump is going after progressive-run cities and threatening to withhold federal funding. President Trump yesterday issued a memorandum, not a moratorium. He's been on a tear with moratoriums lately. But he issued a memorandum yesterday titled Reviewing Funding to State and Local Government Recipients That Are Permitting Anarchy, Violence, and Destruction in American Cities. That's a nice memo. So why all this matters? Well, this review threatens to withdraw federal funding for any, quote, anarchist jurisdiction that it finds disempowers or defunds police departments. The memo specifically mentions the Democratic-controlled cities of Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, and New York. Well, Governor Cuomo, New York, wasn't happy about that. He fired back and said he better have an army. I'm not kidding. He better have an army if he tries to take away funding for our state because he wants to play politics right now over what's happening in these cities with these demonstrations. Now, the memo directs Attorney General Bill Barr, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Director of Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, for short, to publish a list on the Justice Department's website within 14 days that identifies jurisdictions that permitted violence and destruction of property to persist and then that have refused to undertake reasonable measures to counteract these criminal activities, or what he calls anarchist jurisdictions. Well, there's just a few problems with that. He doesn't have the power to do that, according to constitutional experts. In fact, Lawrence Tribe weighed in on that yesterday. He said, spoiler alert, no such presidential power exists. He can't really do that. He said, obviously, he went further in his tweets to say the president obviously has no power to pick and choose which cities to cut off from congressionally appropriated funding. He's the co-author of the book To End a Presidency, The Power of Impeachment. So, no, spoiler alert, such presidential powers do not exist. But he wasn't the only one fired up about it, and Governor Cuomo also. Of course, one of the cities that was mentioned in this specific memorandum was Portland, Oregon, which has been, under violence over the past few weeks, most of the summer, quite honestly. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler, who stood arm in arm with demonstrators just a few weeks ago, you remember, as he was tear gassed. And first of all, you want to talk about anarchy when you have these, you have these random federalized troops showing up with no badges. We don't know where they come from, being mobilized and shooting tear gas at protesters and demonstrators. And so the mayor himself, standing there, gets tear gassed a few weeks ago. We played it right here on the show. But here's what Ted Wheeler had to say, the Portland mayor. He said, Trump threatens to withdraw federal funds, possibly including health, education, and safety net dollars Americans are relying on to get through this pandemic and the economic crisis. Once again, only progressive communities with Democratic mayors, which he labels, quote, anarchist jurisdictions, including Portland, are targeted. This is a new low even for the president. Then he continues, he says he continues to believe that disenfranchising people living in this country to advance his petty grudges is an effective political strategy. The rest of us know it's dangerous, destructive, and divisive. So, we got some latest poll numbers out this morning in the election, and it looks like President Trump did not, after all, get any kind of a bounce from the Republican National Convention. We looked at a whole slew of polls, and the Real Clear Politics average polls pulls together all of them, like 30 of the big polls. And right now, basically, Joe Biden has about an 8-point lead over President Trump in the latest polling. And this is the new Ipsos poll right here that we're looking at. But overall right now, about a 7.2 to 8-point lead for Vice President Joe Biden over President Trump right now in all of these polls. And here's a closer look at how this same poll shook out just a few months ago. So it goes all the way at the bottom of your screen to September of last year. Look where it was much closer then. And look how far apart it is now, about a 13-point differential. And then if you include the plus or minus, for the margin of error, again, still a sizable lead for Biden. But it's not as high as 13. It's a little bit lower than that, but that's what this poll is showing. So definitely over time, Biden has increased his lead and President Trump has decreased his lead. And those are just some of this. And, look, here's the bottom line. It turns out it's tough. It is tough if you're President Trump right now trying to run on this message that, hey, voters, all of this violence that you're seeing right now and this disenfranchisement and this racial inequality in this country and everything that you're upset about right now, all of this, all these demonstrations and this unrest, hey, guess what? You need to reelect me, even though it's all happening on my watch right now. You need to reelect me in November in order for us to get back to law and order. Does that argument fly? According to the polling, it does not. Because what you're saying is, you're basically saying you're trying to pin it on Joe Biden, who has no power. He's running for your job. And according to the polls, they're not buying it. And Republicans, questioned in these polls, are not buying it either. And that's troubling for President Trump. Now, obviously, they're trying to shore up their base, and that's a big push. That was what they were doing at the Republican National Convention, is trying to make sure that they've got those hardcore Trump fans. That's really where their focus is right now. But trying to go to some of those swing state voters right now and trying to get those people who might have been on the fence by using this argument that, hey, I know things are bad right now, but you need to reelect me in November, then they'll be less bad. But it's bad right now on your watch. You are the president of the United States. I don't know what advisor told him that this was a good idea. Like, here's your new campaign strategy, Mr. President. Okay, things are really terrible. The COVID response has been awful in the United States. We've got 185,000 people that are dead. We have racial divisions in this country like we've never seen before, it seems. Cities aflame right now. We're threatening now to withhold funding to some of these cities and try to pin this on Joe Biden, who doesn't actually have a job right now, who's not even in power. Let's see. Let's try that strategy. Well, it's not working. It's not working. So go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out our daily morning newsletter. It publishes every morning at about 7 a.m. You can drink it over your morning coffee. So just go to morninginvest.com and download and subscribe so you get access to that newsletter. It's delivered free right to your inbox first thing in the morning. Let me know in the comments below, how many of you got the newsletter this morning and you're a subscriber? It should take you about 5 minutes to read every morning. And again, it's totally free. So thank you for subscribing to that if you didn't already do so.